Hi guys, hello. Getting the camera a little good. So I am doing this video. As you can see from the title, this is my experience with the Ouija board. Um, Even though the Lord gave me this testimony to share weeks ago, I believe it was fitting for such a time as this. And I pray it does whatever it's set out to do for God's glory. Okay, so I will be looking down at my notebook because I made some notes of the main points I want to hit. So I just wanted to share this, guys, because we are in a time of exposing and we need to continue to do that, expose. All right, so you will definitely hear some noise in the background because my daughter is with me playing. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and get back into it. Okay. Um. Okay. So yes, I played the Ouija board, and for those who don't know and those who do know, that is demonic. It's satanic. It's witchcraft. Okay. It's all of the above or all of the below. you know, when it comes to evil things. All right, but I didn't know that, of course, like most kids, okay? And I was 13 when I played it. I was 13 when I played the Ouija board for the first time. And just like maybe a lot of people and kids, you do things out of ignorance. And as a child, sometimes we do things because we're curious about it. It seems fun. It's interesting to us. Please stop it, honey. Go. So, anyway, like I said, I was 13 when I played it. Okay. Let me tell you how I was introduced to it. All right. Now, growing up, this is another thing. I was always into horror movies. All right. Always into horror movies. I'd seen movies with Ouija boards before. And again, it was crazy enough, it was something that interested me. I was just interested about it, curious. I didn't know that I would be opening doors, demonic spiritual doors by playing this game, but I was just curious about it. Okay. In my innocence, I was curious about it, wondering, wow, like this seems fun. Like that's crazy. The thing moves and it tells you this and all this and that. Either way, I was 13 when I played it. So how I was introduced to it was my mother and I, we lived in some apartments at the time, and my aunt lived in the same apartments with her son. So her son was dating this young lady at the time. Now I'm 13, she is 21. Okay. She was living with her parents or her dad who lived in the same apartment complex. And she ended up having to leave their home and she didn't have anywhere to go. We knew her from her dating my cousin. And so, long story short, my mom let her move in with us. Okay? We only had a 2 bedroom, so she shared the room with me, okay? Shared the bed with me. Anyway, we got along really well, and it was interesting because it was kind of fun having her there because she was 21. I was 13 and we used to talk all night, okay? And that's another thing, okay? I wanted to share this because she shared things with me that I probably should. I mean, she, she wasn't a godly person, but she was just sharing her life experiences and she would share certain things with me. And I probably shouldn't have been having those conversations or, well, rather hearing certain things because, it was grown up stuff and mannish stuff, whatever. So, anyway, and that's something I wanted to point out too. We definitely have to be careful who we let in our house and also who we let hang around our children, okay? Um because we just don't know what these people are instilling in your children, all right? So, anyway, she was the one who told me about the Ouija board, okay? She told me about her experience playing it before with her cousins and how it moved and how it did all this and that. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, really? Like I want to play. What is it, honey?" I'm like, "I want to play and stuff like that." And so, anyway, moving right along, so I wanted it so bad. I had $20. Okay, I had $20 to get this. It was $19.99, guys. I got it from Toys R Us. It was $19.99 plus tax, of course. But I told my mom I wanted it, and she knew I wanted it. And you know what I mean? And that's another thing. Like, it's so important to have godly parents because my mom, in her ignorance, and when I say ignorance, it's just the not knowing. When you're ignorant to something, you just don't know. Okay. So obviously, my mom didn't know how unhealthy and demonic the Ouija board is. Okay. She didn't know because if she had, she wouldn't have let me get it. She wouldn't have let me play it. I wouldn't let my kids do that. You know what I mean? But that's why it is such important to be godly parents, to know the Lord, okay? Because you open spiritual demonic doors for attacks and for depression and anxiety when you allow your kids to partake in certain things. All right, we open so many doors, guys, and these demons follow the children. They follow them into adulthood. All right, they don't just go away. So I didn't need to, it's like I opened the door. I opened a door to much spiritual attack, okay? Demonic attack when I played that Ouija board, all right? So anyway, like I said, I went to Toys R Us to get it. Toys R Us, a toy store for kids, right? Oh, and I want to note this. So I played it when I was 13, but funny thing, like, or interesting thing, I was baptized when I was 12. Okay. Now, I made that choice. Just like with my kids, I let them make the choice to be baptized because, not saying there's anything wrong with parents doing that, forcing their children to be baptized, but I have heard many people say that, it was my parents' choice. It wasn't mine, so I decided that I would allow my children to decide when they wanted to be baptized, because then it would be a personal choice. And I explained things to them and they understood the choice that they were making, And so, with some people, hey, someone I know says, like, they didn't choose to be baptized. They, some people go down a sinner and they come back up a sinner, you know what I mean? So that happens to a lot of people. But anyway, I chose to be baptized when I was 12, and I, even at that age, I loved the Lord. I loved the things of the Lord. I loved talking to the Lord. I knew He loved me. Of course, as I grew older, I understood more about the Lord and His love and my relationship with Him. But I'm just saying how ironic that I got baptized at age 12 and that it's like the enemy set out to really attack. You know what I mean? And he used the means of someone coming into our home, to do these things. Anyway, so all right, so let's move into it. The day that we played it, I remember it was a Saturday. It was a Saturday night. But that Saturday, earlier that day, I have to tell you what happened because I have to set the stage for the events, okay? So earlier that day, I was telling her, I want to play it. Let's go ahead and try to play it. And I was anxious and eager to play it. And I remember her telling me, she said, stop it, honey, stop. She said, no, she said, you have to be patient. Like, you're not ready. You can't just, she was like, you can't just jump on it and play it. You know what I mean? She was like, you have to have patience. It takes a while for it to respond. And I was like, okay, but we were sitting on my bed, I remember, and the game was sitting on my bed, and my cousin, who was her boyfriend at the time, came over, and he saw it, and he was like, what is this? And she was like, that's the Ouija board. And he was like, that thing don't work, And I was like, yes, it does. Tamar, here. Gosh. She wasn't doing this until I started talking, of course. Oh, look at that. Looky. Anyway, she's sleepy, guys. Really? We're going to do this today? We're going to do this? Come on. It's sleepy time. Anyway, and so So, um, yes, he came over and he said, "What is this?" And she was saying it's a Ouija board, and he was like, "It doesn't work," and I was like, "Yes, it does." And she was like, "It does," and he was like, "Kita," they call me Kita, my family. My name is Jakita, but my family, nicknames. Okay, they call me Kita, and he was like, "Kita," he picked it up, okay, and he was like, "This thing is stupid. It does not work, okay? Like, this thing is not gonna do anything, whatever." And she said, "Don't talk about it. It's gonna get mad at you." And he was like, "What?" He was like, "Kita, don't trust this stupid thing. It is not real." So anyway, I had to share that because I'm gonna tell you what happened later that night. Anyway, so yeah, but she said, "Stop being mean to it." That was interesting in itself. Okay, like what is it? Anyway, so looking at my notes, okay, so that night comes. She said, we were gonna do it that night. And so that night comes. Now, what the crazy thing about it, we lit a candle. Okay, we were in the living room and we lit the candle just to set the mood. Anyway, so we're in the living room and she was like, "Okay, you have to ask it like a simple question. Okay, like a yes or no question, like, Ouija, are you here?" Whatever. So, and she said, "Just think that over and over in your mind." And I just want to make sure I'm not sharing this for anyone to try this. Do not do this. You will open up spiritual doors, and there will be attacks on your life and you won't even know why, okay? But do not play this. Adults or children, do not dabble in this. This is witchcraft. It is wrong, okay? Um so we're asking this question, okay? And I believe it took maybe about 30 minutes. I mean, I wasn't watching the clock, but we were sitting there for a little while. Okay, it was a good while. We were sitting there, and we were on both. She was sitting across from me, and we were sitting on the floor. And I remember we had our hands. You had to have your hands, both hands. Like, I had my two fingers on top of the thing, and she had hers on there. Okay. Um. Anyway, so we're sitting there, and I'm saying this over and over in my mind. It was like meditating, getting into that deep place where you were just focused. All of a sudden, y'all, it started moving. It started moving, okay? And the crazy thing about it, I remember I was like, and then it stopped because I took my hands off. I was like, and it stopped. And then she was like, "No, put your hand back on it." And so I put my hands back on it, my fingers. And she said, "Okay." She said, "I'm going to ask it some questions, like just to kind of get it warmed up." Anyway, it was already there. Okay, the spirit had already come through. Anyway, so she's asking it questions, and so I want to share. Um, I'm gonna. I was writing my notes the day before yesterday, and I'm like, "Lord, should I?" I wasn't gonna share what he said about himself or the demon said about itself, but the Lord was saying to expose him too, because we're in a time of exposure. Because it tried to make it seem like he was good. You know what I mean? And so we asked his name. He said his name was Ahmad. I remember it was spelled Ahmed. Okay, and she said, "Is your name Ahmad?" And it went to yes. Anyway, please don't try to tear up my stuff, honey. So it said yes, his name was Ahmad. Um, and it said I think it was like 23 or 24 when it died, and the way he died was he was shot. She asked it like, "Were you killed?" It said yes. Well, she asked, "How did you die?" It said uh shot. No, she said, "Were you killed?" I'm sorry. And he said yes. And then she said, "How?" It didn't say anything. And she said, "Were you stabbed?" And said no. And said, "Were you shot?" And she said yes. And I'm sorry, the thing said yes. And so she said, "By who?" And he spelled out a man. And we asked it, did you have kids? He said he had like 2 kids. Okay. And she asked, are you good or bad? Okay. And of course, it spelled out good. Like, why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it say, yes, I'm good, just like the enemy? I'm not knowing this though. Again, keep in mind, I'm 13. She's 21, but obviously she was in there into it too. You know what I mean? So I'm just fascinated. Like, honestly, try to think. I'm fascinated that this thing is moving and answering questions. Okay? Okay, so it just kind of says certain things. Now, I'm going to get to what it said about me after I tell you what happened with um my cousin. So remember I set the stage for that. Now, where we were living in these apartments, I told you my aunt lived, she actually lived across from us, so it's like a grassy area, and she lived across the grass from us in her apartment buildings where she lived. Now, um how it was, because we were so close to each other, we didn't, certain nights it's like the door would just be unlocked, okay, because people would be at my aunt's house and people would come to our house, so people would just kind of walk in, not kind of, people would walk in like our family, okay. So as we're sitting there playing it, one of my cousins came in. His name's Marcus. I know he don't mind me saying his name, but he walked in and he's like a year younger than me. So he's like 12, 11 at the time, a year and some months. Anyway, he walked in and the thing was still moving, right? So he was like, oh, what y'all doing? And we were like, oh, we're playing the Ouija board. And he was like, really? And I don't know, Marcus, maybe you need to pray about, look, tell demons to leave bind them in the name of Jesus, okay? Because he was like, oh, ask it a question for me, you know? And as long, okay, us being young, as long as I can remember, I don't think he wants to be this today, but as long as I can remember, he always wanted to be a meteorologist, okay? And so he said, ask it if I'm going to be a meteorologist. And I was like, okay. And we asked it and it said yes. And he was like, yay, he was excited. He was excited. And so he ended up leaving because, of course, we were playing the game and stuff, so he ended up leaving. Anyway, so we kept playing. I can't remember every question we asked. We was just asking like just certain random questions. Anyway, we're playing, and how about this? That same cousin who came earlier and was talking about it, being mean to it, he walks in. How about this thing stops? Like, it stopped. We couldn't push it. We couldn't even pick it up, y'all. Okay? We couldn't push it or pick it up. It stopped moving. He came and he was talking and he was like, y'all playing that stupid game? And he was like, I was like, it works. It's real. He was like, no, it's not. I was like, yes, it is. He was like, well, ask it a question for me then. And so she was trying to ask it questions. It did not move. It would not do anything. Anything. She was like, it's mad at you. And he was like, what? I don't care about that stupid thing. So anyway, y'all, he was like, well, I'll be back later. I kid you not. He, as soon as he opened the door, left out, and the door closed, it started moving again. It started moving again. We just kind of looked at each other, and she was like, wow. She was like, you don't like him? She asked the thing that. She was like, you don't like him? And it said no. And she was like, why? Is he bad? And it said yes. But this thing, of course, I'm not understanding that this thing is bad. You know what I mean? So anyway, moving along. Now, let me tell you what it said about me, okay? I said, will I get married one day? Yes. That's what it said. Yes. I said, who will I marry? Yeah, it spelled out the name of this guy that I had a major crush on for like some years, okay? I knew this guy. It wasn't somebody I went to school with. It was somebody else that I knew. And it spelled out his name. And he had a very funny last name that was not just like a random name. You know what I mean? It was a very distinct last name. And so I was like, whoa. Like, and I remember I got excited. You know what I mean? And she said, sometimes it can tell what you're thinking too. So I'm like, really? So I didn't know if that was the case. Either way, it was a lie. It was a lie. Okay? It told me I was going to have 3 kids. All right? Now, those are the main things that I remember. Okay? It told me I was going to marry this guy, and it told me I was going to have 3 kids. Now, we finished up, stopped playing or whatever. So, in the days to come, I remember, this is interesting. So, again, I'm 13. But in my innocent 13-year-old mind, I'm baffled at how this thing could do what it did. So I never forget. I looked at the maker of the game, right? It was Parker Brothers. They make a lot of games, okay? I looked at the maker of the game and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to write a letter to them because my mind is boggling my mind as to how this thing could do what it does, right? Like there was no physical person there with us, right? It was just her and I, okay? So I'm like, how is this moving? So I remember I got some pen and paper and I'm writing a letter. Dear Parker Brothers, like, how does this thing move? I mean, it's just a piece of plastic. I remember writing that much. It's just a piece of plastic and a cardboard. Like, how is it able to move and talk to you and tell you things? I remember even my mom coming in the living room one time when I was writing a letter. She asked me what I was doing. And I told her, I was like, I'm writing a letter to them because, hey, yeah. Come on. I was like, I'm writing a letter to them because I'm wondering how this thing is moving. So even with that, think about that now. I said that to my mom and she still didn't say, oh, it's moving because it's demonic or it's a spirit. You know what I'm saying? But I don't blame her because, when it comes to parents, all of us, sometimes we just don't know. Sometimes we just don't know, guys. We are learning as we go a lot of the times too. And if we weren't taught certain things, if we weren't raised a certain way, we just don't know, okay? That's why it's beneficial to have godly parents too, because, yeah, doors are open in so many ways. Spiritual doors are open in so many ways. And sometimes we question, like, why is this happening to my daughter, or why is this happening to my son, or whatever the case may be, not knowing that by partaking in certain things, certain holidays, watching certain movies, guys. I was a horror fanatic, okay? I opened doors that way too. I used to watch so many scary movies, horror movies. Like, I like a good suspense thriller every now and then, but I can't do horror, guys, because things started trying to mess with me in my sleep, like, spirits. Especially now today, these spirits in these scary movies are even worse, okay? Either way, yeah, she asked me and I told her I was writing a letter. I was going to mail it off. I never got to do that though. I never got to do that, but I intended to. I did. But the days during that time, it was probably not even a whole week later. I think actually it was a week later because the weekend came back around and I remember another cousin of mine. I got a lot of cousins, y'all, okay? He was down at my auntie's house, and then him and some other cousins ended up coming up to our house. And I remember he saw the game. I had it out, and I was going to, I wanted to play it again, okay? Either way, I had it out, and I remember he came in my room, and he saw that on the bed, guys. And I remember he said, whoa, what you doing with that? And I was like, oh, we're just playing it. It's the Ouija board. He said, I know what it is. He said, that's satanic. That's satanic. He said, you better get rid of that. That's satanic. That's satanic. I remember he was pointing at it. He said, that's satanic. That's satanic. He kept saying that. And the way he was saying it, guys, it was like a sense of urgency. Like, I remember he freaked me out. I was like, like one of those things. Anyway, so I remember like I didn't say anything that day, but I remember like she had left, and because I didn't want to have to explain like why, but I wanted to throw it away. I wanted to get rid of it. I had decided when he told me that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get rid of this. You know what I'm saying? But it took his words, like, and that's all he kept saying. No, that's satanic. That's demonic. That's satanic. That's satanic. He kept saying that. He said, don't play with that. That's satanic. And so he didn't even go into great detail. That's all he kept saying, but it was enough to make me like not want to play it. So I remember like maybe the next day or so, I remember she was gone. I was at home by myself. I can't remember, I know my mom was a single parent household, and so she would work and I would be home. Either way, I remember I tried to cut it up, it wouldn't cut. Okay. Oh, shush. It wouldn't cut. And so I just took it out to the big dumpster outside. You know how apartment buildings have those big dumpsters. I took it outside and I threw it away. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. The door is already open, y'all. The door is already open. I threw it away, but I'm not knowing the door is already open. Okay? Okay? The enemy didn't need a door open for him. Like he didn't need to put a foothold of his foot in the door, a crack. The door was wide open. Okay? So, but let me tell you, this is the interesting thing about it. Now, as I get older and go into adulthood, I'm hearing more about the Ouija board. I'm understanding the witchcraft behind it and many other things, because I was into horoscopes. I was into astrology. Like I was into that, not knowing that's witchcraft too. Yes, it is. It's witchcraft. You know what I mean? Just foolish decisions, okay? But I want to say this too. Yes, we do a lot of things in our ignorance, guys, and it's only by the grace of God that certain things don't happen to us. But our ignorance does not stop the consequences that come with dabbling in certain things and partaking in certain things, guys. Okay, our ignorance does not stop the consequences. All right. So anyway, let me check this out though. So even though I'm knowing that, okay, this is witchcraft, it's a lie. As I'm older, I have kids. Now check this out. I had three boys, okay, for the longest. But because I had three boys, okay, my youngest son is 15, all right? As some of you know, as you can see now, I have a baby. I have a daughter. She's 8 months. But my youngest son is 15, all right? So even though I'm knowing this is witchcraft, this is how the enemy does. This is how it can be. He would try to confuse me sometimes with certain things. It would come to me every now and then. Well, it did say I was going to have 3 kids. That's interesting, right? It's interesting. It did say I was going to have 3 kids, and I would kind of give it credit in a sense, but not really. But it would be like, well, it did say that, but I didn't marry this person. But at the end of the day, it was all a lie. All of it was a lie. I'm married now. I'm not married to the person that said I was going to marry. Ain't no telling how that would turn out. How that would have turned out, it's no telling. But, I'm married. I have another daughter. I have 4 kids, okay? But the thing about it, what the Lord reminded me of as well is, even though it did say, yeah, I did have 3 kids for the longest. But it's just like how the enemy tried to tempt Jesus in the wilderness, right? The enemy always has some truth to what he tells a person, just like Adam and Eve. The garden of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. There was some truth to what he said. You know what I mean? There's always some truth to it, but I like what Pastor Black said. This church I used to attend in Arkansas, Family Church, okay? He said, if it's a half lie, it's a whole, I'm sorry. If it's a half truth, it's a whole lie, okay? If it's a half lie, if it's a half truth, it's a whole lie. If it's a half truth, it's a whole lie, okay? So even though there was some truth to it, some truth, really not any truth at all. But he made me, the enemy will try to make you think that there's some truth to what he's saying. That way you can think that it's the real thing. You can think that it's a good thing. Like he told me it was good. No. Remember, the devil comes as the angel of light, right? Making you think that it's good, but it's not, you know? And I've said this in another testimony I shared about my testimony when it came to men. That's another video I did. But I remember saying that, you know, the enemy, before I met my husband, the enemy would try, he was really working overtime to try to bring certain men into my life who seemed right, but they weren't right. And like I said before, if it seems right, something's wrong. Because seem should not even be in the vocabulary of something that's from the Lord or not. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't, to me, when God gives you confirmation of something, it is right. Okay? It is right. It there should be no, well, it seems right. It seems like it's a good idea. Nah, if you got to say something like that, you need to check it, okay? Like anyway, so guys, I just wanted to share that, okay? I wanted to share my experience with that, and I wanted to expose the works of the enemy, and I wanted to expose the lies of the enemy, because again, I shared with you what it told me, what this demon told me would become of my life. But it was a lie. It was a lie, you know. But again, this little game that I got from Toys R Us that was $19.99, it how is it moving? Because it's a demonic presence behind it. Okay? And I opened many doors. Like I went through so much foolish, unnecessary things, okay? Dealing with guys, like just opening so many doors, guys, okay? I do believe that played a major role in how my life went when it came to making certain decisions and allowing certain people to be in my life, okay? I do believe that opened a lot of doors. I do believe that a spirit was following me, you know. A spirit husband was following me, you know, keeping me from what the Lord had for me. And it wasn't until the Lord got me by myself when I moved to Arkansas, me and my children, it was just us. But when he got me by myself and I started really building my relationship with the Lord, getting closer to the Lord and understanding things and getting more revelation and wisdom of things and binding and rebuking these, you know, any demonic presence that was in my life over my children's lives, any generational curses, you know, things like that, exposing these things, you know what I mean? So anyway, all right, guys. So I'm gonna finish. Okay. Yeah. I'm finished. Anyway, all right, guys. I wanted to share that. Do with it what you will. All of this is true. Okay, this is true. All right. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, and I pray that somebody's blessed by it. I pray that it exposes what somebody probably believes is a good thing, and there's nothing wrong with you know, playing with the Ouija board and dabbling in horoscope stuff and astrology and calling psychics. I did that too. You know what I mean? Like calling a psychic to find out if this guy is cheating, and I know he's cheating. Why would I need to call a psychic to find out if you're doing what I know you're doing? Come on, guys. You know what I mean? That opens doors too, okay? Opens demonic spiritual attacks. It opens demonic doors and presences to be in your home, okay? No, tell those demons to go in the name of Jesus, okay? The blood of Jesus is protecting you. You declare that, okay? That is a truth, all right? So, guys, I'm not going to hold you any longer. I just wanted to share it, and I pray that it blessed you, okay? So, have a great rest of your Sunday, guys. Bye-bye.